What more can you tell us in regards to his
You know what
negotiations?
was interesting is I had some pushback on a couple of things. Like I asked him, I said, Brandon, you're asking to be paid like the Amon-Ra St. Browns, the A.J. Browns, and some of those guys. And I said, we haven't seen you be asked to carry the torch of the offense the way that those dudes have. And he said, look where I line up and look who's guarding me. He said, I beat one-on-one coverage. I beat the best man on the other side of the field. And he said, and I do that, and I put up over 1,300 yards without getting the type of targets that some of those big-name wide receivers have gotten. But you guys know how it is, that if we aren't using you in that manner, that means you aren't as valuable to us as they are to their team. And like I said yesterday, he's taken this negotiation extremely personal. And he does say, and he said to me, if I'm not in San Francisco, I'm comfortable being somewhere else.
Well, what's interesting, too, by the way, is this feels like a carbon copy of what we went through with Deebo Samuel not very long ago when he said very publicly, in fact, he told me that I want to be traded. And there was no qualms about it. It felt very personal to him. He did not feel like he was getting along very well with the front office or Kyle Shanahan. They eventually did figure it out. The question here is, can they do it again? Because this is far more complicated. Because, by the way, they paid Deebo Samuel. They also used a first-round pick on a wide receiver in the most recent draft. So if they were to even get to the point where they're playing this season with Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, like if they even get to that point, the question becomes what happens next offseason, because there is just very little expectation or hope that the 49ers will be able to keep Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel on this roster beyond this season.
Why aren't we talking about the elephant in the room as well? Like, at some point, we got to pay the quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's going. They don't have to do it right now, though. But it's coming. Here. This is what I do know about Aiyuk. There are not more than 3 or 4 receivers in the National Football League that are as or more important value-wise to their offense than Brandon Aiyuk. And this offense can't and won't function the same unless he's on the football field. How many guys in the league are asked to do as much from the wide receiver spot when it comes to moving all around, like he told you, RC, attacking the middle of the field, being comfortable, confident, and reliable in the middle of the field, being a viable threat in the red zone, also be as good as any blocking wide receiver in football. So we can numbers, stats, whatever, but when it comes to the value of that role in an offense, it's less than the amount of people on one hand
And
that
that's
can do that job.
But that's the thing, too. And I told him, I said, they negotiate from numbers and statistics. That's how it works.
Sure.
Catches, yards, touchdowns, as compared to your peers that are paid a certain way.
I think the situation is completely different. I hear what both of y'all are saying, but it's one of the conversations that we have when we allude to the San Francisco 49ers in a number of ways. The overall arching conversation about Brock Purdy was, does he benefit from being in the system, and is he really good or not? There is no doubt. I'm in agreement with both of you guys that Brandon Aiyuk is elite. He's an elite wide receiver based on what you just said, RC, about the statistics. But the value, Dan, and the price is where I get to. Because when you look at a team that not only traded for Christian McCaffrey, but also paid him this offseason, when you think about George Kittle, you think about what they did with Deebo Samuel and what they wasn't without Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams on the field. This team got to make a real decision about how much money you allocating, because you've shown that you can have success in a number of different ways. I think it just makes it difficult. It has nothing to do with Brandon Aiyuk's ability or should he be paid as a top wide receiver. But it's always the conversation when we get to the 49ers, value as opposed to how we set you up to create that value.
Okay, so I really want to talk about this because this whole thing just keeps getting messier and messier, unfortunately, for the 49ers. The 49ers absolutely have a real chance at winning the Super Bowl this year, right? Purdy's going to be older, more mature. Shanahan is always consistently growing and becoming a better coach year after year. Aiyuk's getting better. All these guys are going to be getting better for the most part, and they're right at the edge of their prime, and especially maybe even like a Christian McCaffrey and Kittle, who are going to be on the way down sooner than later, right? That really can't be argued. So, like, this is the year to make it happen. But something like this is taken away from that. I understand that Aiyuk is like, I'm a great player. I'm an elite wide receiver. Pay me like one. But you have to have the understanding of that this team is a stacked roster with a lot of mouths to feed, a quarterback that they are going to have to pay. So they do have to consider that when taking care of these deals right now. And he also has to understand that he is incredibly fortunate to have Shanahan as his head coach and to have the other offensive weapons that make his life easier. And Purdy, say what you will about Purdy. I don't care if you want to say that Purdy's a top 5 quarterback or a bottom 5 quarterback. He's clearly a really, really good quarterback who can get you the ball. A competent quarterback and a legitimate bona fide starting quarterback. Someone who can actually take the pressure and can play in the playoffs and in a Super Bowl. That not every team has that. So Aiyuk is saying, look how great I am. Look what I do for you. Give me this money. When the reality is, he's showing no gratitude for what the 49ers are doing for him. Look no further than A.J. Brown with the Tennessee Titans. Where do you think he would rather be right now? With the Philadelphia Eagles or the Tennessee Titans? Because he got traded, the Eagles took him from the Tennessee Titans. And he could still get paid all that money, and congratulations. Yet you had an old quarterback, or you have a backup quarterback, or you have a rookie quarterback who you don't even know if he's going to be in a starter this season or the next season. Who the heck is your head coach? Your head coach is getting fired now. Now you have a defensive head coach. And like that's what happens. So again, Aiyuk needs to understand that he is in an amazing situation. Just like how they talk about Purdy should maybe consider taking a hometown discount, so to speak, or some of these other quarterbacks when they have a great roster or great weapons, whether it be Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and now potentially Brock Purdy, because they recognize I have an amazing offensive coach, I have an amazing, weapons, I have a great O-line, I have this, I have that, and that makes me now a better quarterback. That makes me a better player. That puts me in a position to win more. But these other players don't always look at it like that. Now, granted, it's a big difference from a quarterback taking a pay cut because they're already making the most money, right? They're already making bank. So that's not lost on me, but it's still relevant. You're not going to tell me that Aiyuk is going to be elite or a top receiver if he goes to Carolina or Tennessee. It's just not going to happen. Or the New York Giants. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So you have to recognize you are elite. You are a great wide receiver. But you know what? A good 30% of your eliteness comes from this system. From the fact that the defense have to worry about Kittle, have to worry about Christian McCaffrey, have to worry about Debo. Okay? That they have Shanahan, who's a mastermind, a great play caller, and a play designer. So it's all a balance. And when he's now making these statements, he'd be okay with not being a 49er. And then how he then also did his video where he was talking to, what was it, Jaden or whatever. And he was saying they don't want me back. They don't want me back. That's an embarrassment. People don't want to pay money to people that act like that are making all this noise. They want to hear you say, I want to be on the 49ers so badly. Because I know that we can win a Super Bowl. I love this team. I love playing with Brock. Debo's my dude. Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Purdy. We got such a great chemistry there. I really want to be with this team. But instead, all you hear from him is essentially me, 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 me. And again, I get it from an athlete standpoint of you do have to worry about yourself. You do have to get your money. When RC's saying, oh, he's taking it so personally, well, in a lot of ways, he has to take it personally because he has to take care of himself. Because if he doesn't take care of himself, no one else will. So I do get that, but it is a balance. It's recognizing the situation you're in, recognizing what the situation the 49ers are in. If they pay him as much money as he wants, then they can't afford to keep this team afloat and then they won't win. So why would the 49ers want to do that then? And you have to, and why do you want to play for a team that you can't win then? So, right, if you do just want all that money, then go ahead, go get the money somewhere else and you might not even make the playoffs. And then you'll complain and cause problems there. So it's a tough situation. And again, I really get it from both sides. I get it why the 49ers don't want to be able to give him all this money, but I also get it why Aiyuk says, give me all this money. It's a tough situation. But he's been noisy from the moment they lost the Super Bowl. The moment they lost the Super Bowl, it's just been noise, 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 noise. And it's just it's not good leadership. It's not good, you know, especially with like Debo always getting banged up these days, and you never know, especially with Christian McCaffrey. Like I said, he's going to be near the end of his prime, and Kittle as well. Like, the next up in line to be a true leader outside of Purdy on that offense is supposed to be Aiyuk. And if he's not going to do that, it's a tough pill to swallow to pay that guy all that money and not get a true soldier out of that. But at the same time, sometimes you still have, you have to have those players on your team sometimes too, but they have to be balanced. And that's when you have the Christian McCaffreys and the Kittles. But like I said, they're going to lose ground in the locker room. They're going to lose ground in the offense eventually. They're older. They're not 22 years old, 23 years old here. So it's going to happen. So the 49ers have some big decisions here, because it's just like they're obviously in this Super Bowl window. And then the question is do you have to go all in this season to finally win, to finally raise that trophy and finally be Super Bowl champions? Or is the window open for a longer period of time? And then do you make decisions based on, well, listen, for the next 3-4 years, like, we still got more prime out of Kittle. We still got more prime out of Debo and Christian McCaffrey. They're not going to fall off a cliff next season or 2 seasons from now. So now they're trying to be more strategic from looking at it from a more 2 to 3 to 4 year window. To me, that's where the 49ers are in right now. Do we look at it like this? We have to go all in right now because this is our best chance that we have, because we don't have to pay Purdy yet. Aiyuk, this, that. Let's go all in. Or is it, listen, Purdy's going to continue to be great. Shanahan's going to continue to be great. McCaffrey, Kittle, all these guys. Our defense is going to improve as well. We're making key changes on defense, which we think will then take some of the pressure off of the offense. We'll be able to play more complementary football, which will then be able to take off some of the burden on Christian McCaffrey and Kittle for that matter. And therefore, this Super Bowl window is going to be for 3-4 years, and we are good. We are going to be at the top of the NFL for years to come. It's interesting. It's an interesting question to try to figure out. And if you are the 49ers, you better hope you get it right, because it'll have legitimate consequences. You don't want to miss out on the opportunity of finally winning that Super Bowl, because this would be a tragedy if the 49ers can't find a way to win a Super Bowl either this year or within the next couple of years. Seriously, I mean, like, it's going to be very similar. It'll be reminiscent of what happened with the Eagles in the early aughts, zeros, whatever the heck we call the early 2000s with Andy Reid. They were winning the division 4 years in a row, 4 NFC championships in a row, finally get to the Super Bowl. They lost to the dynastic New England Patriots and Bill Belichick, and it was just like they kind of unraveled there. Now, the drawback was that Andy Reid was doing all of that without a Hall of Fame quarterback. And it's brutally hard. Like it's like 78% of all Super Bowls are won by Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You need a Hall of Fame quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Majority of Super Bowls are won by Hall of Fame coaches and Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So you need it. So it's just like, but yet there was still that pressure that Andy Reid failed and that Philadelphia failed, because at that time people thought Donovan McNabb was a great Hall of Fame quarterback. But then when you kind of reflect back on it, you're like, he was a really good and even great quarterback at times, but he wasn't a Hall of Fame quarterback. And that was the difference maker, because if he did have a Hall of Fame quarterback, then he probably would have won. He could have maybe won multiple Super Bowls. And so this is the situation that the 49ers are potentially in, where for the next 2-3 years, they lose and don't win a Super Bowl. Even though I think Shanahan is an unbelievable coach, you're going to start to hear the fans, the media, they're going to be like, can Shanahan not get the job done? Does he need to go? I see the fans even in this comment section alone blame Shanahan. They blame Shanahan for why they lost the Super Bowl in 2019, and they blame him for why they lost and why the Falcons lost, right? Like, so it's just it's a very interesting situation for the 49ers, and I think it's a lot more fragile than people realize, and then maybe 49ers fans want to acknowledge. To me, the 49ers have to win a Super Bowl within these next 3 years. Otherwise, there's going to be tremendous pressure to kind of blow this thing up. Whatever that looks like, right? Whether that means moving on from Purdy, getting rid of, all of the big people that you guys all know and love, moving on from Shanahan, which, believe me, I think would be a massive mistake. But you just never know. That's what losing, that's what happens. When you keep losing at a high level, NFC championship games or Super Bowls, you're seen as you can't get over the hump, right? The seasons are not seen as successful. It's shown as you are not good enough. So yeah, it's really interesting times here. And so my eyes have been glued to this to figure out what are the 49ers actually going to do. Because you keep hearing rumors they're going to move on from Debo or they're going to move on from Aiyuk. Debo, Aiyuk, Debo, Aiyuk. And you know, it's 1 minute I hear it's going to be Aiyuk, the next minute I hear it's going to be Debo. 1 minute they draft a player that's more reminiscent of a Debo, which means that they're going to keep Aiyuk and move on from Debo. And the next minute you hear Aiyuk is kind of causing all these problems, and it's like, well, maybe they'll move on from Aiyuk. So I don't know. Fascinating times. But I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on this one, especially if you're a 49ers fan or whoever. Like, what do you think the 49ers should do? And do you think, like, how big do you think this Super Bowl window is for them? And what do you think would happen if they don't win a Super Bowl within the next 3 years? Like, do you think Shanahan's job would be at risk at this point? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.